Hello, welcome to the second episode of Bible FIFA. Just in case you'd forgotten, here's a little recap of the team, and let's jump into the match highlights. So, in the 26th minute is that? I gave away a penalty, which I thought was pretty harsh, and don't think I did much wrong. But anyway, he fell over, but the guy missed the penalty, hit the post, so it was still 0-0 at this point. And then I picked up the ball in the middle. As you could see, I subbed on Joel Linton to try and get a goal with him, but instead of scoring with Joel Linton, I scored with Daniel James again, and that was in the 30th minute. So that gives us again a couple of options to read from the book of Daniel or the book of James in relation to probably chapter 3. So that was 1-0, and then I was quite pleased with this bit of interplay. Crossed it into the box, headed over to Daniel James for another decent finish for a 2-0 lead. And as it happens, the guy had enough here. He quit the game, and there's confirmation of the 2-0 win. So I don't have to do any forfeits again. And let's hop in now to the Bible passage.
Right, okay, so into the most important section of the video where we look at the Bible passage. I scored with Daniel James in both the 30th and 57th minute, which means we have a few options. Daniel chapter 5 was quite a long passage, so we won't focus on that one because it might have taken a while to dig into. James chapter 5 verse 7 was about being patient in suffering, and not just being patient to get through present suffering such as coronavirus like we're in now, but actually looking to how Jesus will one day return to wipe away every tear and end all suffering once and for all. We could have looked at that kind of concept in that passage, but instead we're going to focus on Daniel chapter 3 for an encouragement to you guys, and also James chapter 3 for a bit of instruction too. So, in Daniel chapter 3, this is about King Nebuchadnezzar's golden image in the fiery furnace, which many of you may be familiar with this story. So, this involves three individuals called Meshach, Shadrach and Abednego, and these were three followers of the God of the Bible, Yahweh, as we'd say nowadays, Jesus, the God that we worship. So they all followed him. And King Nebuchadnezzar comes to them and he gives them this proposition. He says, right, you either choose to worship my gods and my golden image, or I chuck you in this fiery furnace and you burn alive. What a lovely question. But I absolutely love the response of Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. They say in verses 17 to 18, if we are thrown into the fiery blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. And I just think this is such a brilliant response. One, you can see their faith in God is strong. They believe that God could well rescue them from this fiery furnace, even if they're chucked in it. But they're saying, even if he doesn't, we will still not worship your gods, because we're still confident that the God that we worship, the God of the Bible, the God of Yahweh, he is the true and living God, and he is worth worshipping, even if he doesn't save us from this fiery furnace. And I think it's really encouraging for us now, with some of the sufferings we may face in this world, with coronavirus pandemic going on, where our faith could be tested. You think if these guys can trust God with their lives and being chucked into a fiery furnace, and saying that we'll still trust God even if he doesn't save us, he's still good and loving, even if he lets us die in this furnace. How much more should we be able to trust God at this time where, most of us are still surviving through something like coronavirus or many of the other sufferings in our lives, which, don't get me wrong, aren't easy to go through. And I believe God's compassionate and he doesn't enjoy watching us go through sufferings. However, we can see that their faith in how much God loves the world and loves us as people is so strong that even if he was to let us to go through difficult times and to suffer to the point of death, he's still good and still loves us and is way worth worshipping. And obviously as we look to the cross and we can see how God sent his only son Jesus to die for us, which they hadn't even seen at this point in the Old Testament, we know that he is a loving God that cares about us, and we can trust him through all things, even when we don't fully understand why he's allowed things to happen in our lives or in the lives of those around us. Jesus is still way worth trusting, and he's still good and loving. And as you can see in this story, these three men of God really do trust God in whatever happens in their life. So I think that's so encouraging for us at this time. And then also in James chapter 3, just a kind of slightly different focus. This is more of an instruction passage. It's about taming the tongue. And it talks about how, like a small rudder on a boat just small changes in the way the rudder moves changes the whole direction of the boat, and it gives another example of how a small spark in a forest can start these huge fires. And it's talking about how, even the tongue, which is such a small part of our bodies, can cause, either so much good in what it said, or so much damage and destruction if said the wrong thing. And it's a real reminder to us to remember to tame our tongues, to be careful in what we say and what we let out of our mouths. Even just one word or one sentence that comes out wrong can cause so much damage to those around us if we say the wrong thing. And just want to encourage you to train our minds, to train ourselves to hold thoughts captive before they come out of our mouths. And think before we speak, essentially. It can be easy to fall into habits of swearing or saying difficult things, or you might have this thought about someone that's, they've really annoyed you and you just want to tell them how you feel. But I just want to encourage you to take those seconds to stop and hold those thoughts captive when they come in and discard them before you kind of say something that you would really regret and could cause a lot of damage and could take you a long time to undo or for someone to forgive you for. It's so important for us to think before we speak, to tame our tongues, and to hold thoughts captive when they come in if they're going to be negative or unhelpful. So they're the two things I want to encourage you with. I hope you found this helpful and encouraging. I hope you enjoyed the FIFA content, and if I lose in a future week, I'll also chuck a forfeit into the video. So have a good rest of your day.